Morning, Ben. Thanks for sending some slides through again.
Good morning. How are you getting on?
Not so bad. What have you got for us this month?
Well, I'm going to sound like a broken record this month, Matt, because again, firstly, we're at the mercy of the weather. So the next slide shows every day we look at the weather and we think, is it going to rain? Is it going to be sunny? And every day I talk to people, and I talk to as many people as say they've got lots of grass as say they've got none. So we're completely at the mercy of what the weather does. But what we do know is it continues to be warm. The only variable is whether it's wet or not. So what that means is, I think, that the worms are there ready to go. As soon as you add rain to the mix, they wake up because the weather's warm. So the next slide shows that I have, and I keep saying this, seen more cases of Haemonchus on farms that they're seeing it for the first time. So here's the map on the left, one in North Yorkshire, one in the border between Cumbria and Northumberland, and one in sort of mid to Northumberland, all on farms with reasonable amounts of sheep that they've never seen Haemonchus before. What I have done is I bought myself a magnifying glass, as you can see in the top right hand corner, and I find a magnifying glass very helpful in spotting the worms in the abomasum that are just a little bit too small to see with your own two eyes. And you will find that a magnifying glass makes it a lot easier, especially those of us whose eyes are starting to fail. Found it much easier, and you can see there with those two arrows, that is what you see. You know it's coming because the carcass is pale. Sometimes it has a swollen face. When you're opening up the subcutaneous tissues, it's all pale. The liver and kidneys are very pale beige. When you open up the abomasum, you've got dark coffee grounds, and you can see those worms with your own two eyes. There did seem to me to have been a little, for me anyway, in the northeast of England, there seemed to be a little bit of break. Saw some earlier in the season. Now they're having a surge again. Must be because of the rain. Add the rain to the warm and you get hatching worms. And the first out of the blocks generally is the Haemonchus because it does everything fast.
When it's there, it's ready to go, and like you say, hits fairly hard. We've seen amazing, tremendous variability from farm to farm and region to region this year. And you know, we've had some massive worm egg counts that haven't been Haemonchus, even in adult ewes.
The next slide shows what I was going to say here was that it's funny how often you find that the first time you find it on a farm is in a dead ewe, not in a dead lamb, but in a dead ewe. And if you find it on a post-mortem, it can only be Haemonchus. And as we keep saying, the message is, if you have a ewe die, do not waste it, send it in, get somebody to have a look at it, because it's very easy to diagnose on a post-mortem. So what to do next is you've got two problems then. You've got the initial firefighting, what do we do now? How do we solve this immediate problem when everybody's dying? And very often, you find all of a sudden 3 or 4 or 5 ewes die. There doesn't seem to be a vast amount of anthelmintic resistance among the strains of Haemonchus in the UK at the moment. So really you could use anything, and really you should be guided by your vet. In this case, we went for Closantel. They were careful to weigh the sheep, and they were careful not to overdose them with an oral dose of Closantel, especially as some of them might have been short of protein in their blood. The reason they went for Closantel is because it's narrow spectrum. It will treat the Haemonchus without exposing the other worms to a group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 when they don't need to be.
On some farms, it's not the best choice. Certainly when you know it's mostly Haemonchus, then it's worth considering. But on farms where you've got a significant liver fluke issue, then you don't want to be overusing Closantel because you need it for your liver fluke as well. So
that's true.
Again, that's where the discussion comes in, and find the right active for the farm at that time.
I'm not sure if the advice is clear. I think the advice is look at your own personal circumstances and make a decision.
Yeah, and in the the outbreak, when you've got animals dying and looking rubbish across the board, it's really important to make sure that your treatment is going to be effective. So we do have people going in with the group 4s and 5s at that point.
That's right.
And making sure they get the treatment. But then for maintenance, for that ongoing management of the issue, you definitely don't need to resort to the 4s and 5s all the time. And Scops have just released a podcast talking about managing Haemonchus, which I think is really good and worth a listen.
In the longer term, I think more and more people are talking about the vaccine which is available. And I think it is a good idea at the moment just to take the time to read the data sheet of the Barbavax vaccine and give it some thought to consider whether in the future, for farms that have a big problem with Haemonchus, it might be part of the management strategy.
On some of these farms, they're having to handle the adults, the ewes and the tups, every 4 to 6 weeks, just to check their body condition and anemia status. So again, on those farms, this is definitely an option.
It is worth starting to think about. Now, the next thing that we've noticed is, and this is also reported by SAC and others, is that I just want to say before I state this that I haven't gone completely mad, and I know it's July, August, but there have been the odd cases of Nematodirus, which I was as surprised as anybody. This was a lamb that was sent to me last week. You can see there, those are its guts, and there on the right is a close-up of its guts, and you can see how black that scour is. So I did a worm egg count. All I could see was Nematodirus eggs, and around about 200-300 eggs per gram.
Definitely something we have seen in recent years in some areas on some farms. But yes, the debate then is when you see 1 or 2 Nematodirus eggs in the late summer and autumn, what do you do? And normally I would say ignore it if it's just 1 or 2.
I would.
And that's when you've really got to, include the clinical picture as well.
Yes.
What are they looking like? Have you got any dirty black scour? If you have, then you've got to think again, because it might be Nematodirus.
Yes.
And post-weaning, it might also be coxy. So again, it's, don't waste a dead lamb, get it PM'd and see what's there.
Yes. Then the last thing to say is that people will be weaning lambs. On the left there is growth rates, and you can see the growth rate in a typical lamb is pretty good, and then tails off towards the end. This always happens. Now then, you just want to make sure there's enough food in front of those lambs, and they are not competing with worms for that nutrition. I have discovered that a 30-kilo lamb needs 13 megajoules of ME per day to gain 250 grams, which I must say is a lot. That is a lot. They have to eat a lot of high-quality grass to get themselves 13 megajoules of ME per day. It's not that much less than a ewe needs in late gestations. Other thing to say, which is relevant, is that the worms, if it's being dry and if the grass is short, this picture on the right shows you that the shorter the grass, the more likely the lambs are to be eating worms, because look at that graph, that's where all the worms are. 50% of the worms are at the base of the grass at the lower bits. The higher they have to climb, the less worms there are. You see what I mean? Which is one of the reasons why a herbal lays better if the plants are taller. But that picture on the right shows you that all the worms are down in the base. Most of them are down in the base. Haemonchus, Nematodirus and other worms, and where to wean your lambs to. The summary is basically watch the weather, try to predict what's happened before it happens, monitor weight gains in lambs, monitor worm egg count, mob worm egg counts, and monitor scours, and don't wait. Things happen very quickly. Temperatures are hot, which means everything is on overdrive, and if you delay, you will lose. So I think it's unpredictable, which means the monitoring is even more important.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there, Ben. It's without doing some monitoring, it is guesswork, and I wouldn't like to try and guess what's going to happen this year.
No, absolutely. Well, good luck.
Yeah, thank you very much again, Ben.
Lovely.
Useful and to the point as usual.
Excellent. See you next month.